The air in the house felt thick, heavy, like breathing through wet cement. It hadn't always been this way. God, it felt like a lifetime ago, but just months earlier, this house, our house, was filled with, well, if not exactly sunshine and rainbows, then at least anticipation. Hope. We were waiting for Sam, our little boy. Lisa, my wife. Lisa, she was radiant then. Yeah, pregnancy was tough on her, moody, tired, the usual stuff, but underneath it, there was this glow. Or maybe I just painted it there myself, wanting to see the perfect picture. We'd been married 6 years. 6 years of what I thought was solid. You know? Not movie perfect, nobody's life is, but solid. We had our routines, our inside jokes, our shared dreams. I'm a project manager, steady job, decent money. Lisa worked in marketing, ambitious, smart. We were the couple people pointed to, see? They've got it figured out. Yeah, figured out. That's a laugh now. A bitter, choking laugh. Looking back, God, hindsight is a cruel beast, isn't it? It sharpens every missed detail, every ignored warning sign, into a razor edge that just cuts you deeper. Were there signs before Sam? Maybe. Little things. She started guarding her phone more fiercely around the 6th month of pregnancy. Changed the password. Said it was pregnancy brain, kept forgetting the old one. Right. Late nights catching up on work before the baby arrived, wanting to get ahead. I bought it. Why wouldn't I? I was busy too, getting the nursery ready, trying to be the supportive husband, reading all the damn baby books. She seemed more stressed than excited sometimes, snapping over little things. I chalked it up to hormones, anxiety about becoming a mom. Standard stuff, right? Happens to everyone. I'd rub her feet, tell her it would all be worth it. She'd smile, but sometimes, even then, it didn't quite reach her eyes. Like a mask slipping for just a fraction of a second. But I blinked, and it was gone. Or I convinced myself it was gone. Because the alternative was unthinkable. Then Sam arrived. January 15th. Tiny, perfect, lungs like a tiny opera singer. The first few weeks were a blur, like they are for all new parents. Sleepless nights, endless diapers, that overwhelming mix of terror and absolute, heart-stopping love. Lisa struggled. More than I expected. More than the books prepared us for. The glow was gone, replaced by this fog. She was distant. Crying spells that came out of nowhere. She barely wanted to hold Sam some days. Said she felt disconnected, like she was watching her life through a window. Postpartum depression. That's what the doctor said. PPD. It made sense. It explained everything. The exhaustion, the tears, the irritability, the lack of connection. My heart broke for her. I remember holding her while she sobbed, telling her we'd get through it. We're a team, Lisa, I'd say. You're not alone in this. I doubled down. Took overnight feeds, changed every diaper I could, hired a cleaner, encouraged her to see her therapist, join a support group. Anything to lift that fog for her. Because I loved her. And I loved our son. And I needed to believe, that this darkness was temporary, a chemical imbalance we could fight together. But the fog didn't lift. If anything, it thickened, changed shape. The distance grew colder. She started pulling away from me too. Not just Sam. Flinching when I touched her shoulder. Making excuses to sleep in the guest room. Sam's crying keeps me up. I need some rest to heal. She started needing space. Evenings out with friends she hadn't seen in months. I just need to feel like myself again, Mark, she'd say, her eyes pleading. And I, like an idiot, like the supportive, understanding husband I was trying so damn hard to be, I'd nod. Okay, honey, take the time you need. Sometimes she'd come back smelling faintly of wine and perfume, looking flushed, alive almost, but not with me, never with me. The brief moments of connection felt forced, brittle. And the PPD, it started feeling less like a reason and more like an excuse. The doubt started as a whisper, a nasty little voice in the back of my sleep-deprived brain. Is this really PPD? Or is something else going on? I hated myself for thinking it. How could I suspect her when she was clearly suffering? What kind of monster does that? I pushed it down, ignored the gut feeling twisting inside me whenever she checked her phone and quickly angled it away. Ignored the vague answers about where she'd been, who she'd seen. Just out, she'd murmur, avoiding my eyes. Needed to clear my head. But the whispers got louder, especially when things didn't add up. Like the time she came home near midnight, saying her support group ran late. But I called the center earlier, checking the schedule for her, and they confirmed it ended at 9 p.m. sharp. When I gently questioned her, she flew into a rage. Accused me of checking up on her, of not trusting her, of making her PPD worse with my suspicions. "You have no idea what I'm going through," she screamed, tears streaming down her face. "I feel like I'm drowning, and you're accusing me of what?" The guilt hit me like a physical blow. I backed down, apologized, told myself I was the asshole, projecting my own stress and insecurity onto her. But the incident planted a seed, a cold, hard seed of doubt that wouldn't go away. And then came the night that shattered everything. The night the whispers turned into a roar I couldn't ignore. It was a Tuesday. Sam was about 4 months old. Lisa had gone out again, meeting Sarah for coffee, she'd said earlier. Kissed me goodbye, a quick peck on the cheek that felt like ice. It was almost 11 p.m. when she got back. I was rocking Sam, humming softly, trying to get him back to sleep after a fussy spell. The front door opened and closed quietly. Lisa slipped into the nursery doorway, silhouetted against the hall light. She looked different. Her hair was messy, not just tired mom messy, but tousled. Her cheeks were flushed again, and she smelled, not just of coffee. There was alcohol, faint but definite, and something else. A man's cologne, faint but distinct. My blood ran cold. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice low level. "Long coffee." She jumped, startled. "Oh, Mark, you scared me." "Yeah, Sarah and I just got talking, lost track of time." Her voice was a little too high, a little too bright. "Everything okay?" I asked, watching her face closely. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Shifted her weight. "Yeah, fine. Just tired. You know." She waved a vague hand. "This PPD is just, it makes me so forgetful, so drained. Sometimes I just need to get out, feel normal. It helps really, but it takes a lot out of me." There it was again, the PPD shield. But this time, it felt different, calculated. And the smell of that cologne, it was clinging to her. My heart started pounding, a sick, heavy rhythm against my ribs. Something felt terribly wrong. "Lisa," I started, my voice trembling slightly despite my efforts. "We need to talk." "About what?" she asked defensively, crossing her arms. "About how you don't trust me. About how you think I'm making this up." "No," I said, swallowing hard. "About why you smell like James Ford's cologne." James Ford, my supposed friend. Our mutual friend. He wore a very specific, expensive brand. Unmistakable. Her face went sheet white. Utterly, terrifyingly white. Her eyes widened in panic. "What? Don't be ridiculous, Mark. You're imagining things. You're just tired and stressed." "Am I?" I pushed, the cold dread solidifying into anger. "Am I imagining the texts I accidentally saw on your phone last week when you left it on the counter? The ones you deleted 2 seconds later? The ones from Jay? Am I imagining the late nights, the excuses, the distance?" She started to tremble. Tears welled up, but these weren't the lost, vacant tears of depression I'd seen before. These were tears of panic. Fear. "Mark, please," she choked out. It's the PPD. It makes me, not myself. It makes me crave attention, validation. I feel so ugly, so lost since having Sam. It was a mistake. A horrible, stupid mistake. It didn't mean anything. It only happened a couple of times. Because I've been so depressed, so desperate." She was confessing. Right there. My head was spinning. The betrayal felt like a physical blow, knocking the wind out of me. James, my friend, and Lisa, my wife. While I was home caring for our newborn son, trying to support her through what I thought was the darkest time of her life, she was... No, I couldn't even process it. But amidst the wreckage, her words echoed. "Since having Sam. Because I've been so depressed." The PPD excuse, front and center. Maybe it was true. A desperate cry for help manifested in the worst possible way. My anger warred with a twisted kind of pity. But then my mind flashed back to something else. Something I'd dismissed. An email notification I'd glimpsed on her laptop screen months ago, before Sam was born. Back when she was supposedly just stressed about the pregnancy. An email from a hotel confirmation. The Victoria Grand. Downtown. For a date I knew she was supposedly working late. I'd asked her about it then, casually. She'd brushed it off, said it was a work booking for a client that got canceled. She'd forgotten to delete the confirmation. I hadn't thought twice about it. Until now. The date on that confirmation, it was August 22nd. Sam wasn't born until January. 5 months before. 5 months before the baby. 5 months before the postpartum depression she was clinging to like a life raft. The realization hit me with the force of a physical impact. It wasn't the PPD. It couldn't have been. The timeline was impossible. This affair, it didn't start after the baby, fueled by depression and desperation. It started before, while she carried our child, while I rubbed her feet and told her how beautiful she was, while we picked out names and painted the nursery. The PPD wasn't the cause. It was the cover story. A cruel, calculated lie wrapped around an even crueler betrayal. I looked at her, really looked at her, maybe for the first time in months. Saw past the tears, the trembling, the carefully constructed victimhood. And what I saw turned my blood to ice. The fob wasn't hers. It was mine. The one she'd expertly woven around me. My wife wasn't just cheating on me. She had been cheating on me long before our son existed. And then she had the audacity, the absolute cold-blooded nerve, to blame her infidelity on the very condition that followed the birth of the child she conceived while betraying me. My world didn't just tilt. It imploded, leaving nothing but ashes and the chilling echo of her words. It's the PPD, no. No, it wasn't. And she was going to know that I knew. Oh yes. The shock was fading, replaced by something else. Something cold, hard, and razor-sharp. What was I going to do? Everything. The silence stretched between us, thick with unspoken accusations and the acrid smell of lies burning away. Lisa stood frozen in the nursery doorway, the picture of panicked fragility, tears still tracking down her pale cheeks. But the image didn't work anymore. The curtain had been ripped down. I saw the strings. I saw the puppeteer. That carefully crafted performance of postpartum despair. It crumbled under the weight of a single date. August 22nd. 5 months before Sam drew his first breath. August 22nd, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. It cut through the silence like a shard of glass. The Victoria Grand Hotel. You told me it was a canceled work booking for a client. Her breath hitched. The color drained completely from her face, leaving it a sickly gray. The panic in her eyes flared into pure terror. Mark, I don't know what you're talking about, she stammered, clutching at straws. Don't you? I took a step towards her, stopping just outside the circle of dim lights spilling from the nursery lamp. Sam had finally drifted off, oblivious. Thank God for small mercies. Don't insult my intelligence, Lisa. Not anymore. The affair with James, it didn't start a few weeks ago because you were feeling low after having Sam, did it? It started last summer. Maybe even earlier. While you were pregnant. While we were preparing for our son. Each word was deliberate, heavy. A hammer blow against the flimsy structure of her deception. She flinched as if I'd struck her. No, Mark, you're twisting things. Maybe we met up then, just once. As friends. And the PPD, it made things complicated later. It made me vulnerable. She was scrambling, desperately trying to patch the holes, to weave the PPD back into the narrative somehow. But it was hopeless. The lie was too big, too foundational. Vulnerable. I scoffed, a harsh, ugly sound. Or opportunistic. Using a serious condition, something affecting millions of women, something I broke my back trying to support you through. Using it as a smokescreen? Blaming the birth of our child for the choices you made before he was even here? That's not vulnerability, Lisa. That's calculation. That's monstrous. That word hung in the air. Monstrous. She recoiled, shaking her head violently. No, it wasn't like that. You don't understand. You were distant during the pregnancy too. You were stressed, focused on work, the baby. I felt alone. James, he was just there. He listened. Ah, the blame shift. Classic. Predictable. Pathetic. I was distant. My voice rose, the cold control cracking for a moment. I was working double time to make sure you could take the maternity leave you wanted. I was building the crib with my own 2 hands. I was reading chapters of What to Expect out loud to your belly. And you felt alone? So alone you crawled into bed with one of my closest friends. The betrayal wasn't just the sex. It was the intimacy she'd stolen, the shared vulnerability of pregnancy she'd twisted. It was James, the guy I played poker with, confided in, asked to be a goddamn potential godfather if something happened to me. The sheer depth of the deceit was staggering. Lisa crumpled. Not a performance this time. A genuine collapse. She sank to the floor, burying her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking with ragged sobs. "I'm sorry," she wailed. "I'm so sorry, Mark. It was wrong. Everything was wrong. Please, please don't leave me. Think about Sam. We can fix this. I'll do anything. I'll stop seeing James. I'll go to therapy, real therapy. I'll make it up to you. Please." Her pleas washed over me, but they didn't penetrate the ice that had formed around my heart. The words sounded hollow, desperate attempts to salvage her comfortable life, not genuine remorse for the wreckage she'd caused. Fix this. How do you fix something that was built on a foundation of lies from the start? How do you fix the knowledge that the woman you loved, the mother of your child, looked you in the eye day after day, carrying your baby, while secretly meeting another man? You don't. You just survive the demolition. I didn't say another word. I turned, walked past her crumpled form, and went into our bedroom, my bedroom now, I supposed. I grabbed a duffel bag from the top of the closet and started packing. Essentials only. Toiletries, a few changes of clothes, my work laptop. My hands were shaking, but my movements were methodical, precise. Each item I packed felt like severing another tie. The photos on the nightstand, us smiling on vacation, our wedding day, they felt like artifacts from a different life, belonging to a different man. A naive fool who believed in fairy tales. Lisa appeared in the doorway, her face tear-streaked, eyes wide with desperation. "Mark, what are you doing? Don't do this. Please. Where are you going?" "Out," I said curtly, not looking at her. "I need space. Real space. Not your version of it." "But, Sam," she whispered, her voice cracking. That stopped me for a second. Sam, my innocent son, caught in the crossfire of his mother's deceit. "Sam will be fine," I said, my voice hardening. "I'll figure things out. But I can't stay here tonight. I can't. I can't even look at you right now." I zipped the bag shut, slung it over my shoulder, and walked towards the door. She tried to block my path, grabbing my arm. "Mark, wait. Let's talk. We can work through this." I gently but firmly removed her hand. "There's nothing to talk about, Lisa. Not right now. You weren't honest about the PPD. You weren't honest about the affair. You weren't honest about when it started. What else haven't you been honest about?" The question hung there, heavy and ominous. I didn't wait for an answer I knew would be another lie. I walked out of the bedroom, down the stairs, and out the front door into the cool night air, leaving behind the wreckage of my life. The first call I made was to my brother, Dave. Told him I needed a place to crash, no questions asked for now. He just said, "My couch is yours. Get over here." The second call, made while driving aimlessly through the sleeping suburbs, my knuckles white on the steering wheel, was to a number I found online. A divorce lawyer. One specializing in high-conflict cases and custody battles. I left a message, brief and to the point. "My name is Mark Peterson. I need to discuss divorce and custody options urgently. My wife has been having an affair, and there are complications regarding timelines and deception." The next few days were a blur of numb disbelief and simmering rage. Lisa bombarded my phone with calls, texts, voicemails, oscillating wildly between tearful apologies, desperate pleas, and angry accusations. "How could you just walk out on your family? Don't you care about Sam? James means nothing to me." It was a symptom of the PPD. Even if it started earlier, the feelings were because of the PPD. She tried every angle, every manipulation tactic in the book. She even got her mother to call me, crying about how Lisa was falling apart. How could I abandon her when she was so vulnerable? How PPD was a real illness and I was being cruel and unforgiving. I listened politely, then calmly explained that Lisa's infidelity began before the baby was born and that the PPD narrative was being used to excuse long-term deception. There was a stunned silence on the other end, then a mumbled apology before she hung up. Lisa's attempts to rally support were hitting a wall of facts. Meanwhile, I met with the lawyer, Sarachin. Sharp, focused, no nonsense. I laid out everything. The timeline, the hotel confirmation I'd managed to dig up from Lisa's archived emails. Thank God for cloud backup she forgot about. The PPD excuse, James Ford's involvement. Sarah listened intently, taking notes. When I finished, she looked at me squarely. "Mark, the pre-baby timeline is crucial. It undermines her entire defense, especially if she tries to leverage postpartum issues in custody discussions. It demonstrates calculated deception, not just a momentary lapse or something solely attributable to a postpartum condition. We need concrete proof. Proof. That became my focus. The cold anger coalesced into a plan. I needed to protect myself, and more importantly, I needed to protect Sam. I couldn't risk Lisa using him as a pawn or creating an unstable environment fueled by her lies. I started digging, not just for dirt, but for truth, for leverage. I pulled old credit card statements online. Bingo. Charges at restaurants near James's office on days Lisa was supposedly working late during her pregnancy. Small charges, lunches maybe, but they corroborated the timeline. I looked at phone records. Dave helped me navigate the shared family plan details. An unusual number of calls and texts between Lisa and James, stretching back almost a year before Sam was born. Circumstantial, maybe, but painted together with the hotel confirmation, the picture became damningly clear. James, predictably, went silent, blocked me on everything. Coward. Part of me wanted to confront him, break his jaw. But Sarah advised against it. Let the lawyers handle him, she'd said. Don't give Lisa any ammunition to paint you as unstable or violent. She was right. My fight wasn't with James, not really. He was just a symptom, a low-life enabler. My fight was with Lisa, with the web of lies she'd spun. Lisa, meanwhile, escalated. Realizing her apologies weren't working, she switched tactics. She started implying I was the unstable one, texting me things like, "Are you taking care of yourself? You seem paranoid." Sending emails detailing every minor disagreement we'd ever had, framing them as signs of my controlling nature. She was building her own counter-narrative, trying to preemptively discredit me. And then, she played the Sam card, hard. She started restricting my access, making excuses why I couldn't see him when I drove by after work. He's sleeping. He's not feeling well. It's not a good time. Maybe tomorrow. Using our son, the one pure thing in this whole mess, as a weapon. That was the last straw. The point where any lingering flicker of pity or doubt was extinguished, replaced by icy resolve. She thought she could control the narrative? She thought she could use our son against me? She thought the truth would stay buried under her PPD smokescreen? She had no idea who she was dealing with anymore. The supportive, accommodating husband was gone. In his place was a father fighting for his son, armed with the truth and a very good lawyer. I found an old photo album while sorting through some boxes Dave had stored for me. There was a picture of Lisa and me, early in our marriage. Young, smiling, hopeful. I stared at it for a long time, feeling a pang of grief for the man I used to be, for the life I thought I had. Then I closed the album. That life was over. It was time to build a new one. Starting now. The first step? Filing the divorce papers. Explicitly stating the grounds of adultery, referencing the pre-baby timeline, and requesting primary physical custody of Sam due to demonstrated deceit and instability. The papers were drawn up, ready to be served. She wanted a fight? She was about to get one. Serving the papers wasn't dramatic like in the movies. No process server jumping out from behind a bush. Sarah Chen's office handled it professionally, discreetly. A courier delivered the envelope to Lisa at the house, our house that now felt like enemy territory. I wasn't there. I didn't need to be. The documents spoke for themselves. Adultery. Citing specific periods, including those crucial months before Sam was born. Petitioning for divorce. And the kicker, requesting primary physical custody, outlining the pattern of deception, the manipulation using PPD as a shield, and the recent weaponization of Sam as evidence of an unstable environment detrimental to his well-being. The explosion was immediate. My phone blew up, not with Lisa's usual manipulative texts, but with pure, undiluted rage. Voicemails filled with shrieking, accusations, threats. How dare I try to take her son away? How dare I accuse her? She'd fight me with everything she had. She'd tell everyone what a controlling, paranoid monster I was. She'd ruin me. It was illuminating. The mask didn't just slip. She ripped it off and stomped on it. The desperate, sorry act was gone, replaced by cornered fury. Good. Let her show her true colors. Sarah had advised me to document everything, save every voicemail, every text. Lisa was handing us ammunition on a silver platter. Her lawyer responded quickly. Denials, counter-accusations. Claiming I was the unstable one, that my sudden departure and baseless accusations were proof of my erratic behavior. They leaned heavily on the PPD angle, trying to frame the pre-baby interactions with James as inappropriate emotional support that only crossed lines after the birth due to her fragile state. It was a weak defense, paper-thin, but they were clearly going to try and muddy the waters, make it a he said, she said situation. But I had something more than just he said. I had receipts, dates, times, locations. The hotel confirmation was the linchpin. Undeniable proof of intimacy long before PPD was even a factor. The first showdown wasn't in court, but in a sterile mediation room. Neutral territory. Gray walls, uncomfortable chairs, a big empty table between us. Lisa sat opposite me, flanked by her lawyer, a slick guy in an expensive suit. She looked terrible. Pale, exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. But there was defiance there too, a brittle anger simmering just below the surface. She wouldn't look at me. Sarah Chin sat beside me, calm and composed, a file thick with evidence resting on the table. The mediator started with the usual platitudes. Finding common ground, focusing on the child's best interests. Lisa's lawyer immediately launched into their narrative. Lisa, a loving mother suffering from severe PPD, driven to a mistake by lack of support and overwhelming circumstances following a difficult birth. Mark, tragically, misunderstanding the situation, becoming paranoid, now attempting to punish Lisa by taking her child. It was a compelling story if you didn't know the facts. When he finished, Sarah simply opened her file. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't engage in theatrics. She just laid out the facts, cold and hard. Mr. Peterson acknowledges the reality and seriousness of postpartum depression, she began, her voice level. He spent months providing unwavering support to Ms. Peterson under that assumption. However, the central issue here isn't the PPD itself, but Ms. Peterson's documented infidelity, which began significantly prior to the birth of their child, and her subsequent, deliberate misrepresentation of this timeline. Using the PPD as a shield, this pattern of deception raises serious concerns about her judgment and stability. Then she started. Exhibit A, the email confirmation for the Victoria Grand Hotel, August 22nd. Lisa visibly flinched. Exhibit B, credit card statement showing multiple restaurant charges near James Ford's workplace during Lisa's pregnancy, on dates she claimed to be working late or feeling unwell. Exhibit C, phone records detailing call and text frequency between Lisa and James Ford, starting 11 months before Sam's birth. Exhibit D, copies of Lisa's increasingly erratic and contradictory texts and voicemails to Mark after the separation, including threats and attempts to restrict access to Sam. With each piece of evidence Sarah presented, Lisa seemed to shrink further into her chair. Her lawyer kept interrupting, objecting, irrelevant, mischaracterized, circumstantial. But the weight of the evidence was undeniable. The color drained from his face too as he realized the PPD defense was collapsing. Sarah paused, letting the silence hang heavy. Then she looked directly at Lisa. Ms. Peterson, did your affair with James Ford begin before your son was born? Yes or no? Lisa stared at the table, her knuckles white where she gripped her hands. Her lawyer whispered something to her. She shook her head, refusing to look up. Ms. Peterson? Sarah pressed gently, but firmly. Finally, Lisa looked up, her eyes filled with a toxic mix of hatred and desperation. She glared at me. Yes, she spat out, the word choked with venom. Yes, okay. It started before. Are you happy now, Mark? You wanted to destroy me, you wanted to prove I was the villain? Fine. You win. But don't you dare pretend this is about Sam. This is about your ego, your wounded pride. It's about the truth, Lisa, I said quietly, meeting her glare. It's about the lies. It's about using your condition, using our son, to cover up your choices. Choices you made long before Sam or PPD were part of the equation. How can I trust you with our son's well-being when you've demonstrated such a profound capacity for deception? That hit home. Her face crumpled. The fight seemed to drain out of her, replaced by a dawning, horrifying realization. Not just that she'd been caught, but maybe, just maybe, the first flicker of understanding the true magnitude of what she'd done. The betrayal wasn't just sex. It was the calculated manipulation, the exploitation of trust, the desecration of what should have been a sacred time. Her lawyer, seeing the case implode, quickly shifted gears. Started talking settlement. Conceded that primary physical custody with me was likely inevitable given the evidence, focusing instead on visitation terms and financials. Lisa just sat there, numb, occasionally wiping away silent tears. There was no more fight left. No more excuses. Just the bleak reality of her choices. We hammered out the basics of an agreement right there. Generous visitation for her, supervised for the first few months, contingent on her actively participating in therapy, individual, not just PPD-focused, and maintaining stability. Child support determined by guidelines. Asset division was messier. She'd expected half of everything. The comfortable life maintained. Sarah argued forcefully that her pre-baby infidelity and subsequent deception constituted marital waste and dissipation of assets. Those hotel stays, gifts for James maybe, significantly weakening her claim. We landed on a settlement heavily skewed in my favor, reflecting the circumstances. She wouldn't be destitute, but the lifestyle she was accustomed to, the one funded largely by my income while she was finding herself, was over. As we were packing up, Lisa looked at me one last time. Her eyes were hollow. Was any of it real, Mark? She whispered, her voice barely audible. Between us. I paused, the old grief flickering for a heartbeat. I thought it was, I said honestly. I really did. But you made choices that proved me wrong. Not just once, Lisa. Systematically. Over months, maybe longer. And then you lied about it in the cruelest way possible. I don't know what was real for you, but I know what's real now. Sam is real. My responsibility to him is real. And us? We're done here. I turned and walked away, Sarah beside me. I didn't look back. Walking out of that mediation center felt like shedding a massive weight. Not relief exactly. The pain was still there, a dull ache beneath the surface. But there was a sense of grim finality, of control regained. The lies were exposed. The truth, however ugly, was out. She hadn't destroyed me. She'd inadvertently forged me into someone stronger, someone who wouldn't be manipulated, someone who would fight fiercely for his son. The fallout for Lisa was swift. Her parents, initially swayed by the PPD story, were appalled when I quietly shared the irrefutable timeline evidence with them. They weren't cutting her off, but their financial and emotional support became conditional, focused on her getting real help, not enabling her excuses. Mutual friends, once sympathetic, distanced themselves when the truth trickled out. James Ford? Apparently, his own wife got wind of the situation, perhaps an anonymous tip, and kicked him out. Last I heard, he was couch surfing and his career was tanking. Poetic justice, maybe. Lisa was left largely isolated, facing the consequences of her actions without the buffer of my support or the shield of her lies. The mask was off, the performance was over, and the reality wasn't pretty. The legal battle wasn't entirely finished. Final court approval was pending, but the outcome was clear. She had lost. Lost her marriage, lost the trust of those around her, lost primary custody of her son, lost the comfortable life she took for granted. All because of choices she made long before postpartum depression ever entered the picture. The hardest part was yet to come, navigating the future, co-parenting with someone I could never truly trust again. But I knew one thing for sure. I wouldn't let her darkness cast a shadow over Sam's life. It's been almost 2 years now. 2 years since that mediation room, since the final divorce decree came through, since the dust began to settle on the explosion that detonated my life. Time doesn't necessarily heal all wounds, not completely. Some scars remain, faint white lines on the surface, reminders of the impact. But it does give perspective. It does allow for rebuilding. And life, surprisingly, incredibly, goes on. Sam is thriving. That's the most important thing. He's 3.5 now, a whirlwind of energy, obsessed with dinosaurs and building elaborate Lego towers that inevitably get knocked down 2 seconds later. He splits his time between my place, a smaller, simpler house I bought in a quiet neighborhood closer to my brother, and Lisa's apartment across town. The supervised visitation period ended after about 6 months, once Lisa demonstrated consistent therapy attendance and stability. Co-parenting, well, it's not easy. It requires a level of detachment I never thought I possessed. Conversations are strictly logistical. Pickup times, doctor's appointments, sharing updates about Sam's latest milestones or mishaps. We communicate mostly through a co-parenting app Sarah recommended. It keeps a record, minimizes direct conflict, and helps maintain boundaries. Necessary boundaries. Because the trust? That's gone forever. There's a politeness, a strained cordiality for Sam's sake. But underneath it, the chasm remains. What about Lisa? From what I hear, mostly through obligatory co-parenting updates or snippets from her parents, we occasionally cross paths at Sam's preschool events. Life hasn't been kind. Or perhaps, more accurately, the consequences of her choices continue to ripple outwards. The apartment she rents is small, a far cry from the spacious house we shared. She works, but her career momentum stalled significantly after everything came out. The marketing world can be small, and reputations matter. The friends who initially rallied around her PPD story largely drifted away when the full truth emerged. Her relationship with her parents is strained. They help her, especially with childcare, but there's a distance, a disappointment that hasn't faded. James Ford is completely out of the picture, last I heard. His divorce was finalized, and he moved out of state, trying for a fresh start elsewhere. Lisa, it seems, is largely alone. Still in therapy, which is good, but according to her mom, she still struggles with deep-seated regret and bitterness. Sometimes, late at night, I used to get long, rambling emails from her, apologies mixed with resentment, attempts to re-explain, to justify. I stopped reading them months ago. Blocked the address. There's nothing left to say. Nothing she could say would change the past. Do I feel happy about her struggles? No. That initial rage, that desire for her to suffer as I had suffered, has mostly faded. Now, it's more like a profound sadness. Sadness for the potential we wasted. Sadness for the pain she caused. Sadness that she threw away so much for something so fleeting and destructive. There's maybe a flicker of pity, but it's overshadowed by the need to protect myself and Sam from any further chaos. Her choices led her here. My choices led me somewhere different. My life isn't perfect, but it's mine. Authentically mine, built on a foundation of truth, however painful that truth was initially. Work is good, challenging, but rewarding. I lean on my brother Dave and his family a lot. They were my rock through the worst of it. My friendships have deepened, solidified by the ordeal. I've learned who I can truly count on. I spend as much time with Sam as possible, park visits, bedtime stories, building those endless Lego towers. He's my focus, my joy, my reason for pushing forward. I went to therapy myself for a while, learning to process the betrayal, the anger, the grief for the life I thought I had. It helped. Helped me understand that her choices weren't a reflection of my worth, but of her own issues, her own brokenness. Helped me learn to trust again, starting with trusting myself. Have I dated? A little. Cautiously. It's hard. The ghost of Lisa's betrayal looms large sometimes. But recently, I met someone. Anna. She's different. Calm, kind, straightforward. Knows my history, knows about Sam. Doesn't push, doesn't play games. It's early days, very early. But it feels hopeful. Like maybe, just maybe, there's a chance for real connection again, built on honesty this time. But even if that doesn't work out, I'm okay. I'm not waiting for someone else to complete me or validate me. I'm rebuilding my life for myself, for Sam. I saw Lisa a few weeks ago, unexpectedly. Not at a scheduled drop-off, but at the grocery store. I was in the cereal aisle, debating Sam's latest demand for sugary monstrosities, when I looked up and saw her near the end caps. She looked older than her years. Tired. There was a moment, a split second, where our eyes met. Recognition flared, followed quickly by awkwardness. Pain. Regret, etched deeply on her face. She gave a small, hesitant nod. I nodded back, a brief, neutral acknowledgement. Then I turned back to the cereal, focusing intently on the nutrition labels. By the time I looked up again, she was gone. There was no anger in that moment. No bitterness. Just a quiet confirmation that we inhabit different worlds now, shaped by vastly different choices. And a deep, abiding thankfulness for the path I chose, the path that led me away from the wreckage and towards today. Towards Sam's laughter echoing in the kitchen, towards the possibility of a quiet, stable, honest future. Looking back, the whole ordeal was a crucible. Excruciating, burning away everything I thought was real. But it forged something new in its place. Strength I didn't know I had. Clarity about what truly matters. An understanding that trust, once broken so profoundly, especially with layers of calculated deceit involving something as sensitive as postpartum struggles and the birth of a child, can rarely be fully repaired. The cruelty wasn't just the affair itself. It was the weaponization of vulnerability, the twisting of PPD into an alibi for actions taken long before. It taught me about red flags, about the importance of listening to my gut, even when it's uncomfortable. It taught me about resilience, about the human capacity to endure, to rebuild, to find light even after the darkest storm. The scars are part of my story now, yes, but they don't define me. My love for my son defines me. My commitment to living honestly defines me. My hope for the future defines me. Life threw me its worst, and I'm still standing. Stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever comes next. And that brings us to the end of today's story. Thank you so much for tuning in. I truly hope to see you again for more fascinating tales ahead. If you enjoyed it, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our next adventure. See you soon.